I quit my high-paying job to be there for our kids. Now my wife refuses to help pay for my daughter's tuition. Our blended family is falling apart over school tuition drama. I'm Gerard, 32M, married to Stacy, 30F, for 5 years now. Our family's a bit of a mixed bag. We've got my daughter Pearl, 8F, from my previous relationship with Kate, our son Liam, 4M, and Stacy's daughter Sophia, 10F, from her marriage to Melvin. It's been a journey getting here, and lately, things have been pretty rocky. Let me back up a bit. Stacy and I met at a tech conference 6 years ago. I was there representing my company. I was a senior software engineer at one of those big Silicon Valley firms, you know the type. Stacy was giving a keynote speech on digital marketing strategies. I was blown away by her confidence and knowledge. We hit it off at the after-party, exchanged numbers, and the rest, as they say, is history. At the time, I was 3 years out of a messy divorce with Kate. Pearl was just a toddler then, and Kate and I were still figuring out co-parenting. I had Pearl every other week, and on my off weeks, I buried myself in work. Stacy was in a similar boat. She'd divorced Melvin a year prior, and had primary custody of Sophia, with Melvin seeing her every other weekend. When Stacy and I started dating, we bonded over the challenges of single parenthood and demanding careers. We were both climbing fast in our respective fields. I was pulling 60-hour weeks, leading major projects, while Stacy was jetting around the country, closing big marketing deals for her firm. We got married after a whirlwind year of dating. Looking back, maybe we rushed into it, but at the time, it felt right. We were in love, successful, and ready to blend our families. The first couple of years were great. We bought a beautiful house in a good school district, took luxury vacations, and felt like we had it all. But we were also exhausted. Our schedules were brutal. We'd leave before the kids woke up and often get home after they were in bed. We relied heavily on after-school programs, a full-time nanny, and sometimes even overnight childcare when we both had to travel for work. I remember this one time, about 3 years ago, when Pearl had a dance recital. I promised her I'd be there, but a critical bug came up at work, and I ended up missing it. The look of disappointment on her face when I got home. It still haunts me. Stacy had similar experiences with Sophia, missed parent-teacher conferences, school plays she could only attend via FaceTime. Things came to a head when Liam was born. During our parental leave, we had a wake-up call. We were actually spending time with our kids, all day, every day. We saw how much Pearl and Sophia had grown, how many milestones we'd missed. They were always asking why we couldn't pick them up from school or attend their events like other parents. As our leave was ending, Stacy and I had some serious talks about our priorities. We knew something had to change, but we were both so invested in our careers. In the end, we decided I'd be the one to step back. My job was more flexible, and honestly, I was burning out anyway. The plan was for me to find something with better hours, even if it meant a pay cut. I ended up landing a job as a part-time coding instructor at a local community college. The salary was less than half of what I was making before, but the hours were perfect. I could drop the kids off and pick them up every day. I was home for dinner, helped with homework, and never missed a school event. Stacy went back to her executive role, which still meant long hours and frequent travel. We adjusted our finances accordingly. We kept separate accounts but had a joint account for household expenses. Stacy started contributing more to the joint account since she was earning more. I covered most of the day-to-day kid stuff, school supplies, clothes, extracurriculars. It wasn't a perfect system, but it seemed to work. Fast forward to now. Sophia is about to start high school, and Pearl isn't far behind. Here's where things get complicated. Sophia got into this prestigious private high school. It's expensive, like, eye-wateringly expensive, but Stacy thinks it's worth it for the opportunities it'll provide. She's covering the tuition from her personal account. I started looking into high schools for Pearl, and realized the public schools in our area aren't great. They're overcrowded, underfunded, and their test scores are pretty dismal. The best option seems to be the same private school Sophia's attending. But on my current salary, there's no way I can afford it. Kate, my ex, barely contributes to Pearl's expenses as it is. She's a struggling artist and can hardly make rent most months. I brought this up with Stacy, thinking she might be willing to help. After all, I've been the primary caregiver for Sophia for years now. I cook her meals, help with her homework, take her to doctor's appointments, all the day-to-day stuff Stacy often misses due to work. I thought we were a team, you know? Stacy's response shocked me. She flat out refused to contribute anything to Pearl's tuition. She said we agreed to keep our finances separate, and that I made my choice when I took the lower-paying job. She even suggested that if I wanted Pearl to go to private school, I should go back to my old career. I was furious. I reminded her that I gave up my career for our family, not just for fun. I've been there for all the kids, including Sophia, while Stacy's been focused on her career. I told her that if she wasn't willing to help with Pearl's education, maybe I should stop doing so much for Sophia. Let Stacy figure out after-school care and everything else. This led to a massive fight. Stacy accused me of using her for money and called me selfish for even suggesting I'd treat Sophia differently. She says I'm being greedy and unreasonable. I don't think I'm asking for too much. I'd still pay half of Pearl's tuition and try to get more from Kate. I just want some help to give Pearl the same opportunities as Sophia. The past few days have been tense. Stacy and I are barely speaking, just putting on a show for the kids. I'm starting to question everything, our marriage, our values, our future. I love Stacy, but I can't help feeling like she doesn't value my contribution to our family. And I'm worried about the message this sends to the kids, especially Pearl. How do I explain to her that she can't go to the same school as her sister because daddy doesn't make enough money? I'm at a loss. Am I really being unreasonable here? How do we move forward from this? Update 1. It's been a week since my original post, and to say it's been a roller coaster would be an understatement. First off, I want to thank everyone for their comments and advice. It really helped me gain some perspective on the situation. After our initial fight, Stacy and I didn't speak much for a couple of days. We were civil in front of the kids, but there was definitely tension in the air. I spent a lot of time thinking about our relationship and how we got to this point. I realized that while I thought we were on the same page about my career change, we never really had an in-depth discussion about the long-term implications. I assumed Stacy understood that my lower income might mean she'd need to contribute more in certain areas, but I never explicitly said that. Looking back, that was a major oversight on my part. 3 days after our fight, I decided it was time to clear the air. I waited until the kids were in bed, then asked Stacy if we could talk. She agreed, though she looked wary. I started by apologizing for suggesting I'd treat Sophia differently. That was out of line, and I would never actually do that. I love Sophia as my own. I still remember the day I met her, this shy little 5-year-old hiding behind Stacy's legs. It took months to earn her trust, but now she's the one who comes to me first when she needs help with her science homework or wants to practice her soccer skills. Then, I laid out my feelings. I explained how hurt I was that she didn't seem to value my contribution to our family. I reminded her of all the things I do, not just for Pearl and Liam, but for Sophia too. I talked about how I've supported her career by taking on most of the domestic responsibilities. I brought up specific instances, like the time I stayed up all night with a sick Sophia so Stacy could rest before a big presentation, or how I've never missed a single one of Sophia's soccer games, even when Stacy was stuck at work. I reminded her of the personal projects I've put on hold, the freelance work I've turned down, all to be there for our family. I also admitted that I should have brought up the school issue sooner. Waiting until Pearl was almost in high school to discuss it wasn't fair to anyone. I explained my fears about Pearl falling behind or feeling less valued if she couldn't attend the same school as Sophia. Stacy listened, and then she shared her side. She felt blindsided by my request for help with Pearl's tuition. In her mind, we had an agreement about finances, and she saw this as me trying to change the rules. She also admitted that she sometimes feels guilty about working so much, and my comments about being there for the kids more than her had struck a nerve. She opened up about her own insecurities, how sometimes she feels like the kids prefer me because I'm always there, how she worries she's turning into her own absentee father. I had no idea she felt this way. She told me about a parent-teacher conference she'd missed last month because of a work emergency, and how Sophia had said, "It's okay, Mom. Gerard will be there." It had hurt her more than she let on. We talked for hours, really diving into our feelings about money, career, and parenting. It was the kind of conversation we should have had years ago, before I quit my job, before we got married even. Stacy confessed that part of her reluctance to help with Pearl's tuition was fear that if she started paying for things for Pearl, I might expect her to take on more financial responsibility for my daughter. She's still paying off her own student loans and trying to save for Sophia's college fund. I reassured her that wasn't my intention at all. In the end, we came to a compromise. Stacy agreed to contribute to Pearl's tuition, but not the full half I had initially hoped for. She'll pay 25%, I'll pay 50%, and we'll try to get the remaining 25% from Kate. It's not perfect, but it's a start. We also agreed to revisit our financial arrangement. We're going to sit down with a financial advisor to come up with a fairer system that takes into account both our incomes and our contributions to the family. There's still work to do, but I feel like we've taken a step in the right direction. We're both committed to making this work for the sake of our family. The next day, we sat down with the kids and explained that Pearl would be going to the same school as Sophia. The joy on Pearl's face made all the difficult conversations worth it. We're not out of the woods yet. There are still a lot of underlying issues we need to address. But for the first time in a while, I feel hopeful about our future as a family. Update 2. It's been about a month since my last update, and I wanted to share some developments. First, the good news: Pearl got accepted into the private school. When we got the acceptance letter, Pearl was over the moon. She's thrilled to be going to the same school as Sophia. We had a family celebration dinner, and it was nice to see everyone so happy and united. Sophia even offered to show Pearl around on her first day, which nearly brought tears to my eyes. As for our financial situation, Stacy and I met with a financial advisor as planned. It was an eye-opening experience, to say the least. The advisor helped us break down our expenses and contributions, both financial and non-financial, in a way we hadn't considered before. We realized that while Stacy was contributing more financially, I was contributing significantly more in terms of time and domestic labor. The advisor helped us assign a monetary value to these contributions, which really changed the perspective on our equal partnership. Based on the advisor's recommendations, we've decided to adjust our financial arrangement. We're going to pool a larger percentage of our incomes and use that for all family expenses, including both girls' tuitions. This feels more equitable and aligns better with our family values. However, this process has brought up some underlying issues in our relationship. Stacy admitted that she sometimes resents the fact that I get to spend so much time with the kids while she's working long hours. She loves her job, but she feels like she's missing out on important moments. She told me about a time when Liam said his first full sentence, and she wasn't there to hear it. I had excitedly texted her about it, not realizing how much it would hurt her to have missed it. On my end, I realized I've been harboring some resentment too. While I don't regret my decision to take a lower paying job, I sometimes feel like my contribution isn't valued as much because it doesn't come with a big paycheck. There are days when I miss the intellectual challenge of my old job, the feeling of being at the cutting edge of technology. Don't get me wrong, I love teaching, but sometimes I wonder if I'm falling behind in my field. We've decided to start seeing a marriage counselor to work through these feelings. Our first session is next week, and I'm nervous but hopeful. We both recognize that we need help navigating these complex emotions and finding a balance that works for both of us. In the meantime, we're trying to make small changes. Stacy is talking to her boss about working from home 1 day a week so she can do school pickup and spend more time with the kids. She's nervous about how this might affect her career progression, but she's willing to try. I'm looking into some freelance work I can do in the evenings to contribute a bit more financially and keep my skills sharp. It'll mean less downtime for me, but I think it's important for my sense of self-worth and for our family's financial stability. We're also trying to be more intentional about our time together as a family. We've instituted a weekly family game night, where phones are turned off and we just enjoy each other's company. Last week, we played Monopoly, and seeing Stacy and Sophia team up against Pearl and me, Liam was the banker, mostly just enjoying moving the pieces around, was a reminder of why we're working so hard to make this family work. It's a work in progress, but I feel like we're moving in the right direction. We're both committed to making our family work and ensuring all our kids have the best opportunities possible. There are still tough conversations ahead, I'm sure, but at least now we're facing them together. Update 3, it's been 3 months since my last update, and a lot has changed. Some good, some challenging, but all of it significant. First, the positive, our new financial arrangement is working well. Pooling our resources for family expenses has taken a lot of stress out of our day-to-day lives. We're no longer quibbling over who pays for what, and it feels more like we're truly partners. Last week, we were able to sign Pearl up for piano lessons without having to discuss who would cover it, it just came out of our shared account. It's a small thing, but it felt like progress. Pearl has started at her new school and is thriving. She and Sophia are loving being at the same school, and it's brought them closer as sisters. The other day, I overheard Sophia helping Pearl with her math homework, patiently explaining a concept Pearl was struggling with. Seeing them support each other like that has been incredible. The marriage counseling has been intense but helpful. We've had some tough conversations about our expectations, fears, and resentments. It hasn't been easy, but I feel like we're finally really communicating. In our last session, we talked about how our upbringings have shaped our views on money and success. Stacy opened up about growing up with a single mom who struggled financially, which explains a lot about her drive for financial security. However, these sessions have also brought some issues to light that we're still struggling with. Stacy confessed that she feels like she's missing out on the kids' lives. She's considering a career change, something that would allow her more time at home, but she's scared of losing her identity as a successful executive. She missed Liam's preschool graduation last month due to a work emergency, and it really hit her hard. On my end, I've realized that while I love being there for the kids, I miss the challenges of my old career. I'm starting to think about how I might balance my desire for more professional growth with my commitment to being present for our family. I've been looking into some online courses to update my coding skills, thinking about possibly transitioning back into tech part-time. We're still working through these issues, but at least now we're talking about them openly. We've started having weekly check-ins where we discuss our feelings and any issues that have come up. It's not always easy, but it's helping us stay connected. Last week, Stacy admitted she felt guilty for missing Pearl's school play. Instead of dismissing her feelings, we talked about it and brainstormed ways she could make it up to Pearl. One unexpected outcome of all this, Liam, our youngest, has noticed the change in our family dynamic. He told us he likes it when we're not being grumpy at each other. It was a wake-up call that our issues affect not just us, but the kids too. We've been making an effort to model better communication and problem-solving for them. We're not out of the woods yet. There's still a lot to figure out, especially regarding our careers and long-term financial plans. Stacy's considering talking to her boss about reducing her travel commitments, even if it means slower career progression. I'm thinking about picking up some part-time consulting work to keep my skills sharp and contribute more financially. Last weekend, we had a family picnic in the park. Watching Stacy teach Sophia how to fly a kite while Pearl and I kicked a soccer ball around with Liam, I felt a sense of contentment I hadn't experienced in a long time. We're not perfect, but we're trying, and that counts for something. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm cautiously optimistic. If nothing else, this experience has taught us the importance of open communication and continual effort in a relationship. It's not always easy, but our family is worth it. We've got parent-teacher conferences coming up next week, and for the first time in years, both Stacy and I will be attending together. It's a small step, but it feels like a significant one. There are still days when I worry about whether we're making the right choices, whether we're doing enough for the kids, whether our marriage will survive the strain. But then I see the kids laughing together at dinner, or catch Stacy's eye across the room and share a private smile, and I remember why we're fighting so hard to make this work. We're taking it one day at a time, trying to balance our individual needs with what's best for our family. It's not always easy, but I believe we're on the right track. Whatever challenges come our way, at least now we're facing them together.